Hello, my name is Ilya Feinberg, and welcome to the Finecraft. One of the biggest problems for designers and app developers is that when you build a Power App, or really any app, you don't really know how end users are going to use it. You can observe one user or 2 users or even 10 users, but in the end, you will not be able to observe the usage patterns of all of them together. This is especially difficult for larger organizations where the user base can be thousands or even tens of thousands of users. You can't observe the usage patterns of all users, so you're forced to make decisions based on the observation of several users, which might not present an entirely accurate picture. Today I'm here to show you that you actually can observe the usage patterns of many users, no matter if it's tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of users. And I'll show you how to do it using process mining and the new solution I've built called the Tracer. Let's go. So you've built and published an app. Good for you. Do you have any idea how people actually use it? More importantly, do they use all of it or just part of it? Let's say you've built a new feature or a new screen. How would you know that people are actually using it? Asking one by one might be a bit of a chore. If you're thinking, well, I can just gather some app usage statistics and send them to some kind of a database, then you're on the right track, but that only achieves data collection. You don't actually get the insights from that data. This is where process mining comes in. In a nutshell, process mining is a way to understand the efficiency of business processes based on the data that they produce. A classic example can be case management or invoice processing. To put it simply, it converts this into this. If you'd like more information about process mining, check out the video that we did with Doreen Shah. Link in the description below. Or you can attend the Nordic Summit in September, where I'll be delivering a session about this topic in person. Alright, how can process mining, something built to evaluate the effectiveness of business processes, can help me evaluate the usage patterns of my app? Well, the trick here is to treat apps as if they were processes with events, which they do, which will help us to produce this kind of diagram. Let's break down the components that we need in order to do process mining. The most basic process mining analysis requires at least 4 components. We need to have the process itself, we need to have an instance of a process, we need to have a unique event name within the process, and we need a timestamp for when the event happened. If you want to apply this data model to an app, then the process would be the app itself. The process instance will be a session of the app. The event would be any event in the app. Let's say you click a button or you navigate to a screen or whatever else. And the timestamp when the event happened. If you collect this minimum information about app usage, you can already apply process mining to apps. You can further enhance your analysis by collecting information about the user themselves, the device they're using, and the context of the data that they're using. Well, I think you had enough theory. Let me show you how it works in practice. Before we go into the demo, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you would like to support the channel, you can buy us a coffee, link in the description below. All right, so the Tracer is a solution with multiple components. We have here the Canvas app, which is what we're going to use to process mine, a model-driven app, which helps us to view and edit app traces, a table that implements the data model that we need for app tracing, and the App Tracer Cloud Flow, which is called from different apps to write the usage data into the table. So this app is going to call this flow to write data into this table, which can be viewed and edited in this app. Okay, let's go one by one. Let's start with the Canvas app. This is a demo delivery app, which implements multiple UXs for tablets, phones, and desktops. This app comes from the Truly Responsive framework. There's a full video about it, link in the description below. I've already modified this app to record automatically whenever a user changes between different UXs, so if they go from desktop to phone to tablet, we will know about it. Before we can start monitoring events in the app, we need to configure the tracer. We'll go to App and look at the onStart event. Okay, so there's a few things here, but what we need is this. So the only thing you need to do to initialize the tracer is to create an object called tracer session, which will contain 4 fields: the app name, which is the name of the app, session, which is a new GUID that will uniquely identify each usage session, username, and user email, which will be the unique identifier of the user. That's it. Now we are ready to trace custom events. Let's go to the phone UX. Let's say that from this screen, I want to know whenever they go to a product or open a map. Let's click on the button that goes to products. look at the function. Two things happen here. We have the navigation function to go to the actual product page, and we have the UpTracer function to record this event. And in order to record an event, that's fairly simple. All we have to do is to call the UpTracer function. So UpTracer.run. We have to give a name for the event. So the event would be view order on a phone to differentiate, for example, from the same event happening on a desktop UX or on a tablet UX. And you also see that I'm going to pass the ID of the order, which I'm going to open. This is optional. I can pass additional context to the tracer if I want to, but I don't have to. And I'm passing here the tracer session, which is the object we initialized on UpStart. Let's say I want to record a different event, the map, for example. So in here as well, I have the navigation to go to the actual screen. And I have here the UpTracer to record the event. In this case, I'm saying that the event is called map phone. So I'm going to the map in phone mode. I'm passing in no additional context. And as usual, I'm passing the tracer session object. Now let's go to the product page. So in the product page, we also have here an event for map as well. And we have an event to go back. In both cases, the tracer will record the appropriate event. And now let's go to the map. In the map, there's also a few things I'd like to track. I'd like to know when people navigate back to orders. So I've added a trace function here as well. And I will use the same event name to navigate to orders from anywhere in the application. Let's say I've also added a dark mode feature to the map, and I want to know whether users actually use it or not. So on the dark mode button, I'm also adding a trace, and I'm calling the event map mode. So whenever a user clicks on that, it will be traced as well. So as you can see, it's fairly easy to trace pretty much any action that you do in the app. Now let's see what the UpTracer function actually does. The UpTracer is a cloud flow triggered by power-ups. As parameters, it receives the name of the action, the context, and the tracer session object. The next action is to parse the object, and then we just write it into Dataverse. We write the app name, which comes from the tracer session. We write the name of the action, the context, if it exists, the session ID, which also comes from the tracer session, the current UTC time, username, and user email, which also comes from the tracer session object. We write the data into a custom table that was created for the tracer solution. And next we go into the UpTraces editor. The UpTrace editor is a very simple model-driven app, which just allows us to see and edit all the traces that we have gathered so far. So now we have the app, a process to collect data from the app, and a data model to store the data. The last thing we need to do is to import the data into Process Mining and get our insights. We need to open Power Automate and go into Process Advisor. We click Start here, choose a name for the process, and now we need to choose the data source. As you can see, we have a lot of data sources supported here. This page might look familiar if you ever built a report in Power BI or if you ever imported external data sources in Excel. There's quite a good selection of data sources here, and you can import data pretty much from any system. But we're going to import data from Dataverse. I already have a connection here. I'm going to click Next. Let me choose the right environment. And I'm going to look for the UpTraces table. All right, I have the table. Now I click Next. There's quite a lot of things I can do here. I can filter data, I can add transformations if I want to, but there's only two things that I have to do. First, I need to choose the columns that I need. I'm going to go to Choose Columns. I'm going to remove everything and choose only the columns that I need. So the UpTrace ID is the ID of each trace, which I don't need. The name is the name of the app, which I do need if I want to process mine multiple apps at the same time. For example, if I want to understand the usage pattern of a shared feature or a service that is shared across multiple apps, I might find it useful. In this case, I have only one app, but I'll add it anyway. This session is the session ID, so every time a user uses the app. The user is the username. The user email is their email and also their unique identifier, but in this case, I'm not going to add it. The action is the name of the event that we are recording, which I do need. The timestamp is when it happened. And the context is the free-form context, which I pass every time I create a trace. All right, that's it. Looks much better now. And the second thing I need to do is to map this data to the data model that process mining expects. I'm going to click on Map to Entity, and I have two choices, Activity Log and Event Log. The difference is that Activity Log is a way for me to record events that have a start date and an end date. And Event Log is a way for me to analyze events that have only one timestamp, which is our case. So the activity name is the name of the event. Here it's called Action. The case ID is the session ID, and the timestamp is the timestamp. Then I click OK. And that's all you need to do in order to build a process mining model. The last thing left to do is to click on Save and Analyze, sit back and relax. The setup process is something that you have to do only once. Once done, you can refresh the data anytime you want to get insights from new data. And now it's ready. Okay, that's the result. Let's figure out what it means. Let's look at the basic information we have. First of all, average case duration. A case in this case is every time we use the app. So essentially a case is a session, meaning that on average, the app is used for about 1.5 minutes. Then we have the variants, cases, and activities. Each variant is a unique path that a user took through the application. For example, if you open screen 1, then screen 2, then screen 3, that's one path. But if you open screen 3, then screen 2, then screen 1, then that's a different path and therefore a different variant. So variants in our case is in how many different ways the app was used. Cases, as we mentioned, are sessions. So the data that we have here encompasses 4 different usage sessions. And the activities are the unique events that we have traced during those sessions. Now let's look at the map. So we can see that in most cases starting the app, the user would go to the desktop version. But in one case, they would go directly into the tablet version. But if we trace it further, we can see that users are using the actual functionality of the app only from the phone UX. All the lines from tablet and desktop end up either in phone or in end. So in terms of usage, that already tells us that no one is using the desktop version or the tablet version. They only use the phone version of the app. Darker colors means more time spent. And we can see that the most time spent is on the orders page. The map is also fairly popular. And we can see that the new feature we added, map mode, is also being used. We can also see that users have reached the orders screen 10 times. They have used the map 3 times, and they have used map mode only twice. So that can tell me that this feature is either not needed, or because it's new, people just don't know it's there. I can use the filters on the right to filter by app name if you have multiple apps. I can filter by user to find the users that don't use this feature and get their feedback. I can also filter by date, by individual case IDs, by activities, and even by context, which are IDs of individual orders opened in the app. Aside from the diagram, I also have time analysis. This gives me a good overview of the average time spent on each screen. And as in the previous dashboard, you can apply here the same filters. And that is how process mining can be used to understand how the applications that we build are actually used by all the users, and not just a select few. We don't need to invest time to build complex reports. With process mining, it all just works. The Tracer solution is available on GitHub, link in the description below. Feel free to ask questions in the comments and follow me on LinkedIn and Twitter for updates. Thank you for watching and have a lovely day.